I'm Ben Gilbert. I run a company named All Caps. I'm the producer of the New York Growers Cup and a guy who does general cannabis media stuff in New York City. My personal Instagram is Ben_All_Caps. That's my company. And I run the New York Growers Cup account, which is just the New York Growers Cup on Instagram, all one word. It's more popular than I am. I think more than anything else, the number one thing I always want to promote is New York State growers. Like the New York Growers Cup, the whole focus with New York Growers Cup is to work with local growers and for people to smoke local. And you know, if you're in California, you should smoke California. If you're in Spain, you should smoke Spain. If you're in New York, you should smoke New York. It's my strong belief about the cannabis market is people should smoke local. And so that's what I want to promote. If anything, I'm here to promote New York growers. I gotta be like kind of cliche and choose Mad Villainy by Mad Villain, which is both a super dope album and like a foundational album for me musically, but also the namesake for my company. Like part of my company's name is a reference to that song, All Caps, but also a reference to the concept of like what you see when you read something in all caps, right? You see it like, it's like an exclamation, it's loud, it's meant to be like an overt communication. And so for me, not only is that album super dope, but like MF Doom is super dope, Mad Lib is super dope, like digging in on that album and going deep on all of the stuff behind it, like the production and the people who made it is part of what made me that type of music geek, I guess is what I would say. So that said, boy howdy have I listened to it quite a few times while smoking weed with people, from high school straight through to now. And so it's like been part of my life as a weed smoker for my entire time as a weed smoker. So probably Mad Villainy by Mad Villain. Sure, yeah, the perfect smoking spot for me is my living room. Like I've intentionally built my living room around being extremely comfortable, extremely welcoming, and also a space where I get work done, where I, you know, watch movies. It's like a space for my friends to gather and family. And so that to me, like, it's the place where I smoke weed the most, frankly, but also it's a place that I feel comfortable welcoming guests into my home to smoke weed with, to like help a grower decide what the keeper pheno is for a batch, whatever else. Like it's a space that's become like something for me that's like a hub for both my life personally and for my professional life. It's gotta be something like an OG or a sour. It's gotta be something like pretty foundational like that. Or maybe like a Z cross. Like I know that might be controversial, it's a little newer, but Z is very smokable. It's like, it's very easy to smoke. Something like a really good OG Kush, like something like that would be really great as just like a standard, like I can smoke this all day. It's got some punch, but it's not gonna knock me out. And like, but frankly, like the way that I smoke weed is that I smoke different weed throughout the day. I smoke different weed in different occasions, ideally, if I have that access, right? Like I don't have any haze right now, but if I did, I probably wouldn't be smoking it in the afternoon. I would be smoking it in like the morning, early afternoon, and then probably stop. And I would say the same thing for like sour actually, right? Like I would probably reserve that for like a night smoke because it's got a lot more punch usually. Even though I might sometimes smoke it a little earlier in the day because I decided to go a little crazy. But I don't know, it's all dependent though. I go in different waves with weed, so it's like, if I had to smoke one type of weed forever, it would be really tough to answer that truthfully. So far today, I have smoked 4 different strains of weed, and it's 4 p.m. So today I've smoked the Candy Fumes C12, which is a Z cross. It's Skittles cross with Sherbanger. I smoked the Garlic Cookies from Buds and Such. That's a garlic, I don't know if it's Garlic Gush or another type of garlic strain crossed with garlic Girl Scout cookies. And the Cherry Runts that came out of Mechanics Farm's Doja drop during 420. And then this morning I smoked the Newport Kush from OD Farms, OD Trees, excuse me. So those are the 4 different types. I also smoked some Chem from Mission Hill Melts if you want to keep going, we can keep going. But I wake up very early, first and foremost. I wake up at like 5:30, and I probably start smoking too early too. And it really depends on how I'm feeling though at any given moment. I like to have like a little library of different stuff. I can try different things. Oh yes. I mean, you saw when I came through with the hazes, just the hazes. There was like 15 hazes on a table. You're like, holy shit. You're like, yes, 15 just different types of haze. It was amazing. We had 91 entries last year. Like, I've had an incredible luck to have access to a gigantic library of local cannabis that otherwise isn't really available yet. And so I've been very lucky in that respect. Getting so in their head about something that they end up doing something weird, like being in public with somebody. Like this definitely happened in college several times where I was like in a store with somebody or like a 7-Eleven. I was in a pie shop recently with a friend who was too stoned and he was like mumbling, just like mumbling pie orders at the pie person. And you're like, you need to get it together. You're getting pie. We're adults. So, you know, it's usually silly stuff though, right? It's usually like something dumb, like somebody gets stuck. Like, you know, the concept of getting stuck, that's definitely like, that's a more modern weed term, I think. Like it didn't exist when I was younger. At very least I had never heard it, but like that's definitely something that happens to people a lot and that's very funny, but yeah. You definitely can use your leftover cannabis stems to make tea. I don't know if the tea will be any good or it'll do anything for you, but you can do it. I don't suggest it. You can use your leftover cannabis stems though for lots of, like, especially if you have a lot of leftover cannabis stems, you could use it to like make hash or any number of other things. You'd have to buy a screening bag and all sorts of other stuff, but yeah, I don't know. There's these myths though about cannabis, right? About like, I'm gonna save my stems and turn it into a tea and then I'm gonna get super stoned. And it's like, I think that's just like broke college students making mistakes, you know? It's like saving all your keef from your grinder and scraping at your grinder and all that stuff. Like, probably not a good idea. Probably not healthy. Yeah. This is another great example. Well, if you hold your breath after you take a hit of weed, you will deprive your brain of oxygen and cough a bunch, which will further deprive your brain of oxygen, and you will feel higher for a few moments. Because just like if you have a coughing fit, you'll feel sort of like dazed and like starry-headed or whatever you want to call it, where you get like that kind of like I don't know, you get kind of like messed up from it. And it's a similar thing that happens. And I think that there's this misconception that you hold in smoke in your lungs and it gets you higher, and like does not. It's like it's absorbed into your bloodstream rapidly. And so you should inhale and exhale. It's probably bad for you, frankly, to be like holding in smoke like that. And it's something that, I don't know if this is like a Cheech and Chong thing or what. Like it's something that like goes back decades, you know? Like it's definitely like the first time I smoked weed, people were like, hold it in. And like, I probably did feel more stoned, but like stoned is relative here, right? It's just mostly just like I felt lightheaded or whatever. And probably that I thought that I was like, oh, I'm so stoned. And I was like 13 and stupid, or 14 or 15 or whatever, you know? So the first time I was stoned, I fell out of a treehouse immediately. Like it wasn't, I didn't break a leg or anything. It's not a tragic story. It's solely a comic story where I was like, I had never smoked weed before. And there's those people who smoke weed for the first time and are like, oh, I didn't get stoned, or I didn't get stoned the first few times or whatever. And like, I took a hit from a bowl of like a cheap metal bowl of, I'm certain was terrible weed. And I was definitely very stoned, like aggressively stoned. And in a good way, like in a fun way. I don't mean to say aggressively stoned, like something terrible happened, but like I then immediately was like laughing about nonsense. And anyway, I fell out of the treehouse and it was very stupid. And it's always like a very memorable story though of falling out of this tree. I like met friends that I'd be friends with forever it was like one of the first like, I guess like bigger parties I'd been to too. I was like 14, 15, you know? And anyway, yeah, it was mostly for me, just like I remember going home afterwards and sitting in a chair in my brother's room and he was watching TV and like feeling really stoned for the first time, like feeling like the warmth you get like to some extent, and like sounds were really impactful, and I was like, what is this? And everyone knows. Does everyone know? Like freaking out. Like, I don't know. It was like a cartoon of being stoned almost, you know? Anyway. Yeah, I think the most ridiculous cannabis-related products that I've seen are mostly ones where they try to somehow sell some sort of like bizarre, like sex add-on part of it, right? Like where it's going to somehow be like some sort of a stimulant for sexual activity, or I don't know, trying to basically, broadly speaking, like any sort of products where they try to sell like sexuality alongside of cannabis. It just rings so corny and false so often. But also I think the other strange products that I've seen, although I do know people like these, are like these pills that are cannabis pills that are like, it's sort of like a lozenge more than a pill, I guess, like sort of like a Tic Tac or something like that. And they're pretty popular. I think they just entered the New York market, and I know a lot of people love them. I don't mean to be rude, but it's like such a strange way to, as a person who's consumed cannabis by smoking products forever, it's weird to me to be like taking a pill for weed. Like that seems like uncomfortable or sterile somehow, you know? But it's very popular, and it's a great way to, I think it's a good way to like dose. So I think that's reasonable. But anyway, so that said, the silliest products out of me are often like these like celebrity endorsement products or things that are trying to like sell cannabis in some false, stupid way, like either a celebrity endorsement or sexuality or like, I don't know, something kind of, I don't know, cheesy or inauthentic. But that's a lot of products everywhere. This isn't a cannabis specific problem. My favorite munchie food while I'm stoned, I don't know, I'm pretty basic. I probably just like delicious potato chips. I don't know, like those sour cream and cheddar Ruffles. Fantastic. But if I'm trying to be like healthy about it, like maybe like grapes or like cherries, like fruit smoothies, stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, more often than not, I'm like, oh, I should eat a burrito, and I shouldn't eat a burrito. But I'm stoned, and I'm like, I'm gonna eat a burrito. I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do the burrito. That's my problem more than anything else. It's less that I'm like, I need to eat a whole bag of chips. It's more like, I should probably buy a bag of chips, and then I buy a bag of chips, which I normally would not. It's very dumb, but I've gotten better at it as I've gotten older, thankfully. I think you should be respectful of it being something that's like, for someone who doesn't interact with cannabis, especially they don't consume cannabis, it can be very overwhelming if somebody smokes, especially a lot, or somebody who doesn't smoke anything, just smoking something, period. Like it can be overwhelming. So I think it's something that you want to take as slowly as possible. Like, I think when I talk to people about trying it for the first time now, at very least, probably the safest way is to start with like edibles that you know are low dosage, and like maybe a pill, for instance. And that's very friendly, I think, to people who don't have that background with like rolling joints or whatever, right? Like most people don't roll joints. Like even most weed smokers don't roll joints necessarily, or roll blunts or whatever else. And so I think edibles can be a more friendly way to try it. Especially more friendly than, you know, going on the deep end or like smoking, you know, a hash hole with somebody or being crazy like that, right? Like, God forbid that's your first way of trying cannabis. But I think, yeah, it's really try to put somebody as comfortable of a situation as possible and try to let them know that whatever they feel, everything's gonna be fine. Like the number one worst thing can happen is somebody gets too stoned and they panic and they think that they're gonna die or some ridiculous thing, which they are of course not. And that's when you see those like recordings of funny phone calls to 911 where it's like somebody who's like, I ate a bunch of brownies and now I'm worried that I'm gonna die. And you're like, you're not gonna, you're fine. You're just very stoned. And it'd be better if that person had somebody to comfort them and say like, have some sugar, chill out, watch a show you like, you'll be fine, you know? So yeah, I would say to try to be with somebody or friends that you care about, that care about you, and to try to experience it in low volumes and then gradually increase over time. Just like you wouldn't start drinking by like going on a binge, right? Like maybe have a beer instead of a 6-pack. Sure, yeah, I think more than anything else, the number one thing my goal in working in cannabis, and something that I really hope that our generation and the generations after us push forward more than anything else, is the normalization. Is that, like, I spent the last decade plus of my life as a journalist, as a working journalist, working at mainstream publications, and smoked pot every single day. And it was never a problem. It was like, I got married, I bought a home, I paid off my college debt while smoking weed every day. Like, normal ass people do this all the time. And most weed smokers are normal ass people. There's this really silly, staid, cliche misconception about weed smokers as like potheads, or I don't know, not like lazy or any number of other like negative adjectives. And everybody I know in the cannabis world here is like super hardworking. If anything, works too much, and is lucky enough to get to smoke weed with their friends as part of their job. But like, still, I'm here at Work and Roll, like smoking weed, working, like genuinely, like having a meeting, talking about planning some work for the future. And that's every day. Like, I also smoke weed, but I work a lot, and everybody who knows me as a hard worker, and I know that about lots of people in the cannabis community, and I just hope that there's more of that normalization going forward.